Hello and welcome to this week's episode of From Zero to Millions Accounting Edition. On this week's episode, Bilal and I have on Jason Drucker, CPA. He is a tax partner at a top 25 firm, Aprio, and Jason and I have been connected for several years on LinkedIn. We've kind of been following each other, and I'd say about like 6 or 7 months ago, we started having more of personal conversation, and we found out that we live around the block from each other, and I went to high school with his wife. So
Yep.
the world just keeps getting smaller and smaller. So thanks for coming on today, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly and Bilal.
Thank you for coming.
Let's start out. You've got over a decade of experience in public accounting. You spent a decade at a large regional firm here in New York, and you just made a big change in your career, and you're launching, this wonderful branch here in New York for this new firm. So, give us a little bit of your background, how you got started in public accounting, and we can take it from there.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you so much for the introduction there. I graduated from my undergraduate degree back in 2011. And at that point, it was right after the financial crashes in 2008. Some jobs were kind of tough to come by. And I was unsure where I really wanted to go at that point. A lot of it had been pushing people to go towards the big four. And I never really wanted to be part of that big four culture. I actually started at a really small firm here on Long Island with about 20 professionals in total. And when I started there, I was doing tax, I was doing audit, I was doing accounting. I was doing the full gamut of what you would see at a small accounting firm. I spent about 3-4 years at that first firm, and I felt like I got as much as I could out of that. And then I made a jump from a small local firm to a large local or regional size firm. I joined them as a tax staff one. And, over a 9-year period, I progressed from a tax staff one all the way up to partnership. It was a fun ride, but in the past few years, there's been some decisions that kind of weren't in my best interest. And you and I had some conversations about what might be best to do next. So, I went to one of your events and we talked with some other practitioners about possibly going out on my own, about joining another smaller firm, about joining another larger firm. And it put me at a bit of a crossroads, right? We're at a point with our industry where we're seeing a lot of alternative structures. We're seeing private equity come in and really take over the space. We're now seeing some ESOPs come in and take over for some of these firms. And I always had wanted to be part of a partner-owned firm. I went through the pros and cons of doing it on my own, of joining another firm. And I found Aprio. It's kind of a small world. Pre-COVID, I had gone down to Atlanta and they had hosted me at a week-long event. And 5 years later, I'm back talking to them again. And we kicked things off, right? I had some great interviews. I met some of their great partners in the New York area, in Atlanta, in Washington, D.C. And I loved what the firm was all about. It's a great culture. It's a great fit. It's partner owned, which was a big plus for me. And, just hearing their story about what they've gone through. And then, in the last, call it 10 years, the drastic changes that they made at that firm made it somewhere that I wanted to go. Just to, talk a second about the firm, a lot of people don't know the firm Aprio because the name itself is fairly new. So prior to 2015, the firm went by the name Habif, Orgetti, and Wynn. And these were 3 retired and possibly deceased partners at this point. In 2015, they changed the name to Aprio, which is a Latin combination of the word heart and head. Yeah, it was very interesting. And at this point, the firm was only a 200-person firm. They were only in Atlanta. And, in the last 9 years, they've gone from a 200 person, one office firm in Atlanta. We are now a 2,100 person firm. We are top 25 in the country. We have 24 offices, and we are now throughout the entire country with as well as 2 international offices. Um, we're a big player, right? We're right up there with the Withams and the Armaninos and the Citron Coopermans of the world. So it's been very exciting. And when I heard and the more I read about the firm, I was very excited to join them and join their team and really drive this New York tri-state market for them. Yes.
Interesting. So you,
Yeah.
you are heading the New York's area?
So I am heading the one of the manufacturing niches for the New York area. So my background is corporate tax with the focus in manufacturing, international, and technology backed clients.
Nice.
It's a small departure from where I was. I was doing manufacturing, but it was 99% US based clients, family owned businesses. Moving to a larger firm, I'm seeing a lot more in the private equity space. I'm seeing a lot more in foreign inbound transactions where international businesses or international individuals want to do business in the United States. So there obviously comes some complexities with what we are having to do from a structural standpoint to onboard them and to mitigate the tax implications of doing business here and in their own country.
I mean, first time I heard of Aprio was about, I think, a couple years ago. One of the firms I knew on LinkedIn that was dental specific got bought out by Aprio. I think
Really?
Yes.
out of Missouri. I forgot the name, but the name firm. But I knew the partner because I met him at a dental event a while back, and that's the first time I saw Aprio as a name. It's felt different because they were
Yeah,
big firm, but with a unique name, which you don't see
correct.
that often.
Yeah, 95% of the firms are named after someone. I guess, if you look at the top 100, you could maybe say now Forbes is not named after an individual with that name change, but just about everyone else is named after a person. So they went through this big change back in 2015.
Yeah.
And yeah, dental is one of our biggest industries. So, we handle a tremendous amount of clients in the dental space. We have built out a whole platform for our dental clients. It's a full on suite for them. So not only are we handling the tax and accounting for them, but it's really a full on financial system, soup to nuts, full concierge service for them.
So you guys handle like the medical side, billing side, or of the practice, or is only strictly financial services?
Yeah, so they do full billing, full on suite for these
Wow.
dental practices, right? With I believe it's a perpetual a proprietary model that we've internally created as well that all of our dental clients are hosted on.
Interesting, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, I know the firm you bought was a big firm in Missouri,
Yep.
dental firm. Interesting. How do you see like Aprio growing? So I know the past 10 years you guys 10x your employee count.
Yes.
Um, was a lot of it through acquisition, or was it organic growth?
So it was a combination of both. We have gone out, we have acquired. There was one top 100 firm that we acquired out of the Washington, D.C. area, as well as some smaller mid-sized firms throughout the country. But about 50% of that growth has been organic as well. So when we move into these other areas, we take the mid-sized or smaller teams that they have there and we add on to those teams and we add operational people throughout the country. So even prior to COVID, the firm had a large presence outside of just the areas where their offices were. While I said we have 24 separate offices across the country, we have employees in almost all 50 states who are working, cross borders on different teams for Aprio.
So let's back up a little bit here. You spent, 10 years at, again, this regional firm here in New York. and large firm that also had some recent changes. But, you know, a lot of our guests, we talk about like the transition to, you know, owning your own firm or becoming partner at a firm, because, you know, that's really what people are taught in college, right? Like,
Yep.
go to Big Four, you know, be partner. You finally won't have to work all those hours that they've been making you do. Wink, wink. Um, but, you know, obviously you're young, you made
Yep.
partner.
Yep.
How was that transition for you? You know, how hard was it for you to make partner there, and what did it take? You know, it's vague, but
Yeah, no, that's a very good question, right? So, even if you go back before COVID, what I found the best for me was starting to get outside of my comfort zone, develop relationships, both with the clients that you're working with and with other individuals who are in ancillary industries who we work with, whether it's bankers, whether it's lawyers, whether it's insurance brokers. I tried to get out there as much as possible. And yes, at the beginning of COVID, I might not have been getting out there and getting face to face with my clients and my other, connections, but we were hosting Zoom events with them as well. So I tried to always keep that connection going with everyone, for the past 4+ years right now. What I found best, at least since, we'll say since 2021, was, getting back in front of people as many times as possible. So, something that I was taught early was, getting face to face with people is key. You want to have as many touch points with these individuals as possible, whether they're clients of yours or people in other industries who you could be helping service, and vice versa. So whether it's getting to networking events or, even if it's lunch or dinner or something like that, what I try to do is I always try to keep my calendar full, at least one event per week. I'm trying to get in front of somebody else and sitting with them, working with them, connecting with them, seeing if we have any clients who might be able to service through the other individual, and seeing how we can help our clients long term. Because at the end of the day, in a client facing industry, we are trying to service the clients to the best ability that we can.
so
Um,
did the prior firm like encourage you to go out and do this? Because I know a lot of
oh,
times it's hard for you. It's hard for people to find the time to do it.
Absolutely. And I have to say, one of the best things that was ever done for me was at a very young age, I was put in front of a very difficult client. And you could say it was a little bit of a sink or swim type of thing. And I persevered, and I dealt with a very difficult client who liked face to face meetings. And I said, if I could deal with one difficult client, I could deal with, 10 easygoing clients. It's really not that difficult to do. And yes, I was at this point in my 20s, and I'll never forget one of my partners said, the day you turn 30, let everyone know that you're not in your 20s anymore, because no one wants to be taking advice from people their kids' age. So, I let the grays come in on the sides. Kids help with that. Tax season helps with that. But, I guess one of the benefits there is, people take you a little bit more seriously over these things. So I was always getting out there, whether it was in front of clients or bankers or lawyers, and trying to meet with them as much as possible. I also feel like when you're with someone, there is a personal level of connection that it's tough to have as much over, whether it's Teams or Zoom or over email. And listen, if you have a drink with a person too, they open up to you a little bit more, and that's how you really get to know someone. One of the pieces of advice that I once heard is, if you don't want to sit down and have a bottle of wine with somebody, do you really want to spend your time working with them? So, you try to meet these people and, see if you can get along. Obviously, not everyone's a drinker. I'm not a huge drinker myself, but, I like to have a beer or a glass of wine every once in a while, and see if I could enjoy myself with these people outside of work and kind of connect with them. And that's what's important, right? The more times you talk to someone, the more times you connect with someone, the more you go to the front of their mind when they're thinking of who they can advise as a resource to their clients as a CPA, and vice versa. The more I meet with individuals, bankers, lawyers, people in, insurance industries, the more they come to the front of mind as someone who I might want to refer my clients to when they're looking to solve a problem that they have that I necessarily can't can't do with the firm.
Yeah. For you, so I mean, obviously, your firm, it's a big firm. You used to work at, not Aprio, but the one you used to work at. Um,
Yes.
and at a young age, you had this, foresight, and you want to go out and network with people and get to know and build relationships. Um, Obviously, not every accountant your age at that time was doing the same thing you were doing. Um,
Correct.
what was like what was your goal? Like, was your goal literally to make partner a certain amount of years, like that you want to reach, and you had it planned out, and your formula was, okay, if I get to know, if I build relationships with people, that's my way up the ticket in the company, that I can grow with my partner. If I get as many revenue as possible, because I know, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of accountants are not, they're not social in nature, so it's very difficult for them to go out and get that business. And then obviously, when you try, most fail and never repeat, right? Obviously, you failed at many times when you tried to get a business, and
Oh
you
yeah.
got rejected many times with the client looking at you as a young man. I'm not listening to you or your advice. So you had difficulties with clients also, as you mentioned. What kept you going? What kept you going at that route? What kept you going to, what, this is the way I believe in doing this, because it will drive me to grow in the company and become a partner eventually. What kept you going in that?
That's a great question, Bill. I'm going to break it down into a few separate answers here. So the first thing is I had this big number 35 in my head, and I turned 35 this September. So I always had the goal in my mind of making sure that by the time I was 35, I wanted to be partner. And what I did, it was kind of twofold. I asked within my firm what other partners were doing to to make partner, right? Younger partners, people who are in their 30s, in their early 40s, what they did to take that next step.
How old were you when you did that?
Uh, Say 29, probably 5 or 6 years ago, right? So at that time, I asked these younger partners what they were doing. And some of it was obviously, listen, we need to have a book of business, right? To be in the field, you need to have some amount of client relations that you're going to have so that it could substantiate paying you a partner's salary. But then on top of it, it's a combination of things, right? Some of your referrals are going to come from existing clients.
Mhm.
Existing clients will refer you to someone else if you do good. But I was always told it's kind of like the reverse of pay it forward. If you do a bad job, they're going to tell everyone. If you do a good job, they might not tell everyone, but they might tell a few people. So you always want to make sure you give, A+ client service to all your clients. And it's not only on technical things. It's responsiveness. It's answering the questions that they have. It's the little things sometimes that matter more than the big things. Like, yes, obviously we'd love to save all of our clients hundreds of thousands of dollars, but sometimes it's a matter of sending them, saying nice things. Happy birthday on their birthdays kind of go a long way to people. We know all of our clients' birthdays. You have to put it into the tax return for them. Responding to their emails in a timely matter of fashion. Even if you're not responding with the answer, respond and say, hey, I got your email. I'll get back to you with an answer by the end of the week this week, so that they know that you're not just ghosting them. We unfortunately see that a lot in this
It's
industry
like the biggest
where,
complaint that people have is that my accountant doesn't answer me. It's like,
yeah,
that's so simple.
yeah, yeah, it's really, it's a no-brainer. Hey, I see this. I will get back to this within the next X number of days. Sometimes you know the answer offhand, sometimes you don't know the answer offhand, and you have to do a little bit of research into it. Um, but Bilal, just kind of jumping back into your original question here. So when I asked all these other partners what they were doing, they weren't coming to the office every day, right? They were spending their time outside the office, whether it was face-to-face meetings with current clients, face-to-face meeting with bankers or lawyers, networking events during the morning, networking events during the evening. I prefer the networking events in the morning because hopefully no one's drinking too much at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's just orange juice. But getting in front of these people, and like I said, when you get in front of these people time and time and time again, you become one of the first person that they refer to. Um, And then from the bigger networking events, I like to bring it down into one-on-ones or two-on-twos where I would bring another person from my team and a banker or a lawyer might bring another person from their team when we would go out and we would get lunch or dinner or whatever it was. That's where the real connection came from, right? When you're in a room with 100 people and you're trying to talk to 10 or 15 different people in an evening, you only get a few minutes with someone. But when you sit down and it's one-on-one or two-on-two, you really could develop those personal relationships and get to telling stories and talking about your clients and what you do and how you could help, a little more than like the elevator pitch that you give when you go to these big events. Um, and I just continually did that, and I did say yes. Obviously, there's a fail rate, but you start to do more and more, and it kind of avalanches, right? The more that I went out there and did, the even more I was able to deliver in terms of new business for, new clients, new business for existing clients, continuing to serve my clients, getting paid by my clients. Unfortunately, that's a big thing we deal with in the industry too, is, you could send them a bill. That doesn't mean that they're paying you so fast, and without getting paid, our businesses can't survive. And just kind of overall keeping everyone happy, running my book as if it was a firm, right? I
Yeah.
can't just forget about the clients that I'm dealing with and the relationships that I'm building. I have to think of this as my mini firm within a bigger firm, and how I could do to service it best, and how I could do to continue to attract them to continue to work with us, make referrals, etc.
I mean, I would say this is like a lesson for everybody. Starting at a firm right now, at a big firm, small firm, and that has a goal to open their own firm down the line or become a partner. One of the formulas is how to get business. And I think being at a firm and trying to get business is a lot easier because you have no risk. If you get denied, you get denied. You're still getting paid at the end of the week. Um, and those skills you build up, like you learn the denial, how you get denied. You learn all this, you overcome those things. And as you build this book of business, you have the ability and the confidence to, I want to go on my own. I can still get business on my own, and that gives you the options where when you negotiate with a firm to be a partner, you have leverage. I think that gives you a huge amount of leverage because, oh, I can get you business, and that firm want you to be part of their firm. And I
Correct.
think what you did is also a lesson for a lot of young accountants that want to be on their own and open a firm, is this is the formula to really, I know your technical work obviously is one, but going out and learning getting business, learning how to get clients, learning how to overcome the rejections will go a long way for your personal skills, personal development.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. The rejection thing's a big thing too. I always think it back to like baseball, right? If you hit 300, if you get a hit 30% of the time in baseball, you're a Hall of Fame player, right? It's pretty much the same kind of stats in accounting here, right? So if you go out and you get rejected 70% of the time, you're still doing great. Listen, if your numbers are up there, if you're out there and you're doing enough and you're talking to enough people, it's okay to lose. It's okay to send out a proposal and not get a client. It's okay to, not hear back from somebody. The more you're out there, the more you're talking to people, the higher chances you are that you're going to continue to generate this new business and have your business be profitable.
I love hearing, this different perspective of becoming a partner at a larger firm. To be honest, like we mostly have smaller firm owners on the show. And the risk, we talk about the risk about going out on your own and, having enough business and, maybe having 6 months worth of savings and all of this unknown. But, there is something to be said about, working for, not a big four, but a larger firm in the country, top 100, top 25 firm, and having, a steady salary, but be able to build your own book of business and still transition from one company to another. It's really an amazing opportunity, and there are still opportunities, where you don't need to risk it all, especially when you have a family,
Yeah.
right? Like people feel very stuck at where they are. and you've made this jump now. Like, can you go into a little bit of like why you chose this position and what, you anticipate to be different for yourself in the future, like culture wise?
Yeah, though that's a great question. Um, I was coming from, call it 18, 1900 billable hours in the past few years, right? Going back to the pandemic. And listen, I want to be able to go out there. I want to be able to build my client base. I want to be able to build my team. And like I said, I want to run we'll call it a pod, like it's its own mini business within a business, right? I think that my time is better spent at this point out there networking, meeting with clients, meeting with individuals who are going to help the business long term. And, when I bring in the business, if I have a team of 15 individuals underneath me, it's my job to allocate how that work gets done, right? So one of the things that we really haven't talked about today is, profitability of each client, because I can get $100,000 client, but if it costs me $500,000 of time to do that work, like we're not making money on it, right? So you have to also make sure that like the team that you have underneath you is also going to be working effectively and diligently on the clients at task, taking advantage of as much technology as possible to mitigate the amount of hours that they spend working on individual clients, and making sure that, each individual project that you work on is profitable as a whole. It's something that I have always been kind of a part of, is making sure that all of the work that we do is being billed and entered so that we could then, make sure that we are invoicing our time to the clients and understanding the amount that we are spending on each specific job, right? It's unfair to me. It's unfair to you if I think that something takes 10 hours because that's what you put in for your time, but you really spent 20 hours doing it. It kind of goes twofold there. One, you're working 10 hours that you're not really getting credit for. And two, maybe we should be upping the fee to the client a little bit to reflect how really difficult their job is. It might not look so difficult because, we're not always seeing under the hood at the difficulties of what's going on in every single individual job because you're working on so many different jobs throughout the whole year. So, you kind of got to take that approach to a small business within a big business when you're looking at your overall book and making sure that you could stay profitable on your jobs overall. That's one of the things that they're looking for, right? Bilal's initial question was what they're looking for with you as a partner. And it's a combination of, A, bringing in business and making sure that you're generating new business for the firm. But then B, you need to get paid on that. And then C, you need to be profitable to some extent. Like you said, if you're taking huge losses, if your realization's a low number, it doesn't matter really how big your top line number is because you're not really making overall profits for everyone.
100%. 100%. Moving away from that topic, since you are now part of the top 25 firm, and we mentioned that earlier, private equity has gone to the accounting industry.
Oh, yeah.
Slicing and dicing different firms.
Yes.
How do you see them impacting how accountants bill, how accountants become partners eventually if they become partners? Would that switch to a different model or they get stock options instead?
Well, it's a very good question. With what we've seen now with Citrin Cooperman and now with Grant Thornton in the private equity space, I think we're going to see a massive change here throughout the industry within the top 100 firms. I think there's going to be even more consolidation than we've seen in the past, even though that they're saying they're not going to merge the firm. I mean, New Mountain Capital owns both of those companies, so it's possibly inevitable that they merge those two together.
How big is each one of them?
I'm sorry?
How big is each one of them?
Grant Thornton is $2 billion and Citrin Cooperman is maybe $700 million. Wow. So it's about a $3 billion firm. We put them together. Probably puts them right around fifth or sixth largest firm in the country. But what you're also seeing is from a client standpoint. I've heard from clients who are of these firms that are doing private equity that it's an absolute disaster. The level of service is going down and the fee structure is going up, right? Because these private equity individuals need to make a return on their capital and on their investment. So I don't think that they necessarily care about the clients. And that's not an environment that I want to go into, right? I take, like I said earlier, I take precedent in caring about my clients. The little things that you have with your clients kind of do go a long way. Um, I would say I would be, if I was a betting man, I would put money that more of the top 50 firms are going to be acquired by private equity structure in the next few years. Um, or other options like the ESOP that we've seen a few firms do.
What's that?
Because ESOP is an employee stock option plan, so it allows all employees of a firm, not just the partners, to technically own a piece of the firm, which could be great if you are, not looking to become partner, or if you are in an administrative position, and that could be used as some type of retirement option for you. But if if you are a CPA and you have the mindset of being a partner in a partner-owned firm, it may take away from um, your end game, your retirement at the end of the day, right? And that's a little bit of an unknown right now. I'm not retiring for 30 years, right? Who knows what would happen in 30 years with these ESOP companies. So it's kind of a bet that you have to be willing to. And I took a bet on myself as moving to a partner-owned firm that I could do better for myself, than possibly it as a whole.
A follow to on what you said about the private equity going and buying those two companies and the services going down, the fees going up. But then you follow up with saying that um, they they be more purchasing of more buying of top 50 firms. Do you think if other big firms see that, you know, do they care, like, and they change their mind, or the money is too good to keep going?
It's a very interesting thing, right? The issue here at hand is you have aging partners who run a lot of these firms, and they need to have some type of exit strategy, right? So the exit strategy is either their existing partners buy them out with either cash or debt, or someone else comes in and buys up the firm and buys up the stock of the firm. Um, I believe that private equity probably has an advantage because their pockets are significantly deeper than other partners' pockets. They're coming in with their money and other money from funds that they've raised to come in and buy these firms. We haven't gotten numbers on the deals for some of these firms, but I would say we're probably looking in the billions for the Grant Thornton deal. They're almost a $3 billion firm right now. So to come in and buy out these firms, it's going to take significantly deep pockets. And then on the flip side of that, what happens to the existing partners who are in there who are not nearing retirement age now, right? They're going to get pennies on the dollars for their percentages that they own in the company, and they become basically an employee or a director, right? Because they might not be eligible to be considered a partner anymore under the new structure. And that's still kind of a gray area, right? We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We haven't seen the flip yet on the private equity. There's some rumblings that there's going to be the first flip in the next, few months on one of these companies. But until pen hits the paper, it's all arbitrary at this point.
This is such a fascinating conversation, and like I totally agree with you, and I think we're seeing it already, like you said, the service is going down.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like, clients and employees are going to exit. If clients are unhappy and employees are unhappy, I mean, that's really their only option. There's plenty of jobs available for accountants.
Yep.
And really it could mean more opportunity for firms like Aprio, smaller firms like ours, people who do want to go out on their own, because I think this is just going to create more client availability for everybody.
Yep.
And, maybe it'll take 3 to 5 years for private equity to realize that they made a big mistake because they're going to start losing money. That's like my hot take on it, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
Or look down the road, there won't be a way for them to flip the companies, right? The whole plan of private equity is to come in for a shorter midterm deal, 3 to 6 years, and flip it to someone else. And let's see what those returns look like in 3 to 6 years from now when they start to have to flip these companies back.
I think it's going to blow up in their face, but I guess time will tell, and
Time will tell.
maybe we'll have some smaller firms that are starting to change their culture and change, their structure, that are going to rise to the top, and there'll probably be a whole new, top 25
Oh yeah.
firms by then. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of shifting, and
I
it's
think so
exciting.
too. I think the names on these lists are going to be changing, and they're going to be changing rapidly. We're going into a really fast-paced environment, and it's going to be very interesting to see who kind of shakes out on these things and who falters.
Really cool. Well,
Yes.
Jason, if you want to leave us with any last, words of advice and where people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, some words of advice, as I said earlier, is get out there as much as possible, especially while you're young. If you don't have kids, get out as much as you can before if you do want to have kids, because life only gets more difficult and more complicated to get out once that happens. You could find me. Our website is aprio.com. That's aprio.com, and you could search for me, Jason Drucker. You could also find me on LinkedIn and any of your other social media websites as well. But yeah, Kelly and Bilal, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the time that we spent together.
Thank you, Jason, for coming on.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to another episode of From Zero to Millions Accounting Edition. That was